Welcome to this week's St. Clair County Board of Commissioners meeting. The types of business that occur at these meetings include public hearings, official voting on actions by the Board of Commissioners, presentations by departments of the county, and recognition of service that makes our county great. As your elected representatives, the St. Clair County Board of Commissioners is committed to improving the lives of all our residents while preparing county government to meet the demands of the future. In order to do that, we need to share our thoughts and plans with you. More importantly, we need you to share your thoughts, concerns, and opinions with us. We encourage you to come and experience the process by attending any of these meetings. They occur every first and third Thursday of the month at 6 p.m. at the St. Clair County Administration Building at 200 Grand River Avenue in Port Huron.
I'd like to call this meeting to order of the St. Clair County Board of Commissioners Human Service Committee. Could I have roll call, please?
Commissioner McConnell, Commissioner Heidemann,
Here.
Commissioner Bohm,
Here.
Commissioner Dunn,
Here.
Commissioner Rushing,
Present.
Commissioner Graytop,
Here.
Commissioner Tamian.
Here. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. First on our agenda, do we have any additions or deletions, changes to the agenda this evening?
Make a motion, we accept the agenda as presented.
Support.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
This is the appropriate time for any citizen that wishes to address the commission on any Human Service Committee items this evening. We haven't received any requests, have we, Chris?
No.
Seeing nobody out there. Next we have from Dr. Mercantile, the 2017 Health Department Annual Report.
Thank you. I do not have anything formal to provide you. I believe you all have the annual report in your packet. I think it highlights most of the great stuff that we're doing, and I'm actually here just to answer any questions that you might have.
Well, I thought, again, it was very well assembled and presented. I love the clever way that you use all the highlights of the different measures. It's very interesting, once again.
We try to make it a little more readable with this format. So.
It's very readable.
Okay.
Yes, Mr. Graytop.
I wanted to reiterate also what Commissioner Tamian said. Very nicely put together, very easy to read and understand. A lot of good stuff in there. I would really like you to bring this to the South End and present it, and I know you would do that.
Of course.
But our Lions Club has a 3-minute limit on presentations. So,
Does anything jump out at you that
Yes.
you would like more, maybe a more formal presentation on?
we could talk about it.
Great.
But that,
Be happy to do that for you.
yeah, we got a lot of old guys in the club, older than,
Right.
some of them older than Howard, and
Hey.
you weren't even paying attention, you were looking down.
So generally, your time is very valuable, and so if you want elaboration on any of the things we have in that annual report, I think that would be more effective use of my time. I'd be
Very
happy to
nice
come back and do that.
presentation.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Annette. Could you remain at the podium for a moment, because the next new business item is the Health Department Plan of Organization.
Correct.
But before I get there, I need to check with the commission to see if we have any conceptual initiatives.
You need a, just to interrupt you, you need a motion to accept the report?
No.
Do we? No.
Right.
All right, thank you. There is no old business. Under new business, we have the Health Department 2018 Plan of Organization. Annette, do you have anything that you'd like to share with us on that item?
Well, I just want to say that we really are putting a lot of emphasis on our growth of our health education team and our community outreach collaborative services. This is a requirement for our fifth cycle of accreditation, which will be occurring in November. And so the documents that you're receiving and approving are part of our requirements to present to the state for our accreditation. So nothing major has changed with our organizational change, other than our informatics position.
Personally, I just thought that having so many pages devoted to our board's minutes and to,
Correct. So that is
To the
required
budget.
because we need to include documentation that shows the local governing entity's approval of our budget.
oh, I see.
So
we
those
had-
minutes are a reflection of when our budgets have been approved.
Okay,
Okay?
great. Any other questions or comments for Annette? Can I have a motion to send this on to the full board?
So moved.
Support.
Any other comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have the contract approval request for Had Route Design, and it's on the agenda tonight for final action.
I'll make a motion that we approve this for final action.
Support.
Are there any questions or comments from any of the commissioners or staff? No, this is for final action, so would this be a roll call vote?
Yep.
Thank you, Chris.
Commissioner Heidemann,
Here, yes. Sorry.
Commissioner Bohm,
Yes.
Commissioner Dunn,
Yes.
Commissioner Rushing,
Also here and yes.
Commissioner Graytop,
You were listening.
Yes.
Commissioner Tamian.
Yes. Thank you. Are there any other human service matters to come before the committee this evening? If not, we have finally another item from the Health Department. Their points of interest for 2018. Can we have a motion to receive and file?
So moved. Support.
All those in favor?
Aye.
How about a motion to receive and file the packet?
So moved.
Support.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion to adjourn?
Support.
Commissioner Dunn?
Good evening. I'd like to call the St. Clair County Board of Commissioners Judiciary Public Safety Meeting to order. Could I have a roll call, please?
Commissioner McConnell, Commissioner Tamian,
Here.
Commissioner Heidemann,
Here.
Commissioner Bohm,
Here.
Commissioner Rushing,
Yes.
Commissioner Graytop,
Yes.
Commissioner Dunn.
Yes. Here. Additions, deletions, change to the agenda?
Make a motion we accept the agenda as presented.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. At this time, citizens to be heard. Are there any citizens to be heard? Seeing none. Updates. Are there any updates from Commissioner Graytop?
Yep, just want to bring you up to speed on the fire pagers down in the Marine City area. We've had an issue down there and determined that it is not the pagers themselves, but rather it's a connectivity issue, connecting to the pagers from the towers. We just recently discovered that most of our towers that are further away from the Canadian shoreline can broadcast 360 degrees at full power. The particular tower down there broadcasts only 270 degrees, not toward Canada, and it's running at about 20% power. So it's a good indication as to why it's kind of weak down there. It's part of the whole issue, not only with Verizon, places like that, but also with our particular communication system. One of the issues that we are currently looking at is that, first off, keep in mind that we're working with Marine City, we're working with St. Clair County, that's our system, we're working with the state of Michigan, their 800 megahertz system, and now we have to work with FCC because they're the ones that set the rulings that we're not allowed to shoot into Canada and vice versa. They're not allowed to shoot over here, or at least they're not supposed to. So we're working all of those entities trying to put them together, so it's going to be a process, but the two things that we're working on that just came to light recently, Canada does not use 800 megahertz system. Only the United States or Michigan right now is using that 800 megahertz system. So if we are to shoot more power and it was to cross that border with an 800 megahertz signal, chances are it's not going to interfere with anything over there. So the possibilities to solve this issue would be just turn that power up. And if we are able to do that, that might solve the issue right there. If that doesn't solve it, or we can't do that, then we're gonna have to probably put a repeater or something on one of the towers down there and try to boost the signal. The other thing is, and I just got an email, and I haven't had a chance to read it, but briefly, but I just want to say that they're looking at some of these microsite towers. If you're not familiar with those, they're putting in like a micro tower, and they're only good for maybe a half a mile to a mile range, and they generally shoot this way. So if you put one of those in an area going along the river where it's kind of out into the river a little bit, you put one right there and shoot north and south or east and west, whatever direction you happen to be facing at the time, so as you don't cross the river, then that may solve that issue also. Those are much cheaper to put up than anything else, and they work very well in that immediate area. Legislation was just passed recently by the state of Michigan allowing those things to go into the right-of-way, and so this may solve our issue also. So I want to say that out loud, I want to say it publicly, I want everybody to know that we're working on it, and when these issues come our way, Commissioner Bohm, Commissioner McConnell, myself, as soon as we realized there was an issue that was of the magnitude that this seemed to be, we went down there, we worked with them, and we managed to get all the players to the table that need to be at the table right now, so hopefully that's going to solve that issue. I apologize for going on, but
No, just to add on to that, you know, we would talk to different people, problems taken care of, somebody else, problems not taken care of, back and forth, right? So we have a protocol in place now that if they have issues, so-and-so contacts so-and-so, so-and-so gets a hold of so-and-so, because, you know, as commissioners, we're only obviously as good as the information given to us, and so when somebody tells you that the issue's been taken care of and somebody else has got an issue, but after going down to that meeting and spending time down there, there was definitely, it opened my eyes to, you know, the problem, and it's really, I don't think it's anything, you know, that's a showstopper. They had an issue in St. Clair. They had to put in a repeater on one of the water towers to assist, you know, with that. I just want to clarify, though, when you talk about 800 megahertz, totally different than cell phones, because if you're down in that southern part of the county, and I drive down there every day, and I'll call you back in 2 minutes because my phone's going to go out, you know. And really, Bill, you just touch on that with, if you want to just touch a little base on that. Don't want to confuse the two issues.
on Verizon?
Well, they turned the signals down.
Yeah,
You know, that's the reason.
they have turned, they have a deal with Canada, and again, you're dealing with FCC, so they're from the federal government, and they came here to help us. Okay, you're listening. And they've agreed that Canada will only power up so far, and we will only power up so far. But that isn't necessarily the case. We're down here, and Canada's up here. And I've been working with a technician from Verizon along with one of their vice presidents. So we're trying to get this thing balanced out. If they would turn it down and we could turn it up and get an equal balance there. But you know as well as I do, when you shoot a signal and it goes this way, if the land comes out, you're going to miss a piece, or if the land comes in, you're going to be in the water. So it's a very complicated issue. But very fortunate for us, we've got Senator Gary Peters and his staff fully aware of it. He was in town just recently. We were riding a bus, and I was talking to him about, can we get this done, and he was all on board to get it fixed. And called his office the other day and asked him to work with New York's Senator Chuck Schumer, because he's having the same issue in upstate New York. So if we get 2 or 3 senators, maybe anybody that's on the Canadian border, any of those guys can rally together, maybe it'll speak a little bit louder, and we'll get something done so that we can use our cell phones in this area. I don't know what most of you do if you travel that river, but I know if you travel it, you're losing call after call. I can tell you within 5 feet when I'm going to lose it, and within 10 feet when I'm going to get it back. I mean, and it's regular. So we are chasing it, but county commissioner can't do a whole lot with FCC, but we can try. We can make some noise.
Commissioner Heidman.
Just observation I made, or have been making. I was telling Commissioner Bohm about it earlier today. You know, we had the float down here, a couple weeks ago, and there were some reports in the paper about in fact, it was front page news, how much it cost to provide all of the safety services. And let's say low end, it was what, 10,000, high end, maybe 20,000? And not a word was mentioned about the economic impact of the float down. Because if you have a person come and spend a day in the city or county, they're going to spend about $150. And if you had 3,000 people floating down the river, and when I walked the river walk that day, I think there were 3,000 people down on the river walk, watching, observing. Conservatively, if you had 6,000 people in the city for the float down, and they each spend $150, which might be conservative considering the amount of beer they were drinking, you're talking about over $1 million economic impact to the community. And if that money circulates around anywhere from 5 to 7 times, that's a $5 million economic stimulus for one day in the city and the county. That's huge. And there were people from all over coming for the float down. I understand safety is a cost. I realize that. But we have to realize there are also economic benefits to many of the businesses in our community because of that float down.
That should
And
be
so
included in
providing
the,
that safety service,
Times Herald report.
pardon?
That should be included in the Times Herald report.
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you. Any other updates from commissioners?
I'm not going to take near as long as Bill and Howard. Just something real quick. At the Riley Township meeting, we're one of the very few townships within the county that does not have a fire millage. They are looking at a special assessment. There's 2 ways to do that. Jay DeBoyer's helped me with this, and he's going to get me the actual statute and the procedures of having a special assessment or a millage for Riley. Because the cost for fire departments, and very important for the citizens to have that, and Riley will definitely have their fire protection. But the funding is, like everybody, going up because the requirements of fire department and the training and everything, it's a lot of specific training and you have to be trained, and that costs a lot of money. So they're looking at that, and I just want to give a thank you to Jay DeBoyer for helping me out on that.
Thank you. Any others? Conceptual initiatives, nothing tonight. Old business, seeing none, we'll move on to new business. Item 7A, 2018 Emergency Management Program Grant.
Make a motion, we send this on to the full board.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed.
Just one question. That's been about the same amount of money over the last, what, 10 years?
It's gone up, but looks like it went up about $1,000. It was $41,246 last year, $42,514 this year.
Progress.
Yeah, we're going in the right direction. Okay, item B, 2017 Homeland Security Grant for the Operation Stone Guard agreement.
Make a motion, we forward that to the full board.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. We do have Captain Matt King in the crowd tonight, if anybody has any questions on any of these items also.
It's just a comment on Stone Garden. When they first proposed that, what did we get, 3 or 4 million?
I think it was like 2.3.
2.31.
2.31. It's down to what now?
93.
93?
93 even.
And we can do that service,
1,000.
I think, so much better through the sheriff's department and our local police departments, but they didn't ask me about that.
Well, they should have, Howard.
Yeah, I think so, too.
Item 7C, the 2019 Secondary Road Patrol Grant application. This is a renewal.
Make a motion, we send this on to the full board.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any discussions on item C? Item D, agreement for law enforcement service between the City of Elginak and the Sheriff's Office. This is also a renewal.
I move that this agreement be forwarded to the full board, and I'd just like to make a comment that I was involved with this initially, and I think it's one of several of these agreements that we have with the townships where we share sheriff department services with them. And it was certainly very cost-effective for Algonac, and I think they're receiving a much higher level of law enforcement than they were previously.
I'll second that.
I spoke with the sheriff today about that, and both sides are extremely happy with each other, so it's been a win-win.
Duke?
Yes, sir.
I also want to reiterate what Commissioner Tomian was saying. I was there when it went through, was actually part of some of the negotiations at the time, and I have to tell you that the city of Algonac, the citizens and the administration are extremely pleased with what the sheriff does down there. Very, very pleased. They didn't balk at any of this stuff, I don't think. They passed it through without any questions. The service has been just exemplary, so good job to the sheriff's department.
Any other questions? Discussions? Okay, moving on to item 7E. Child,
Did we vote on that?
did we vote? I'm sorry. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Okay, item E, Child Care Fund approval.
Make a motion to forward this to the full board.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any discussions?
The other way around.
You could ask discussion before you take the vote.
Item 7F, the Child Care Fund budget amendment.
I'll move that that be sent on to the full board.
Support.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Item 7G. Contract approval request for Conte Corporation.
I move this be sent on to the full board. This is for the sheriff department controls upgrade, is that correct?
Yep.
It's for the TASER-related products. Yes.
Support.
Any discussion?
One.
Yes, sir.
Maybe this is for administration. On that first page under comments, they've got jail 101,351 and juvenile center 292,668. Are those line item, is that an accounting number?
Yes, those are their department codes.
Okay, thank you.
Just a comment. It's hard to believe that that security system at the jail, that electronic thing, is already 15 years old. Tell how long I've been around.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Item I. Item H, sorry, contract approval with Axon Enterprise Sheriff Department for the TASER units.
Make a motion to forward it to the full board.
Support.
Any discussions? Yes, sir.
On the very second page there, the says quote expiration 8/31/2018. Has that been extended? In the upper right corner there, in gold where it says quote expiration 8/31/2018.
Captain King, do you have any idea?
I know that the undersheriff was on the phone with them a few weeks ago.
Sir, could you come on up?
Did you find it, Carrie?
Good evening. I know that the undersheriff was on the phone with them approximately a month ago, and that this quote should be good as long as we get the contract signed. It's a contract for a 5-year deal, and we save a lot of money doing it that way, buying so many per year. I think it kind of locks us in on a price, and they know that they've got our business for a little while. It's a product we'll continue to need through the years.
And I'm not sure this is germane, but it says start date 3/13/2018.
I believe that was the start date for the quote when they started working, the quote for the date.
Just to make sure that our figures are good, if we agree to this.
Any other questions or any discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item I, contract approval request for Axon Incorporated. This is for the court security.
I'll move it on to the full board.
Support.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That ends our new business. Any other judiciary public safety matters? Nothing under information. Motion to receive and file.
So move.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye. Motion to adjourn.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'd like to call the St. Clair County Board of Commissioners Committee meeting on Environmental and Public Works to order. Madam Clerk, would you take the roll?
Commissioner McConnell, Commissioner Tamian,
Here.
Commissioner Bohm,
Here.
Commissioner Dunn,
Here.
Commissioner Rushing,
Here.
Commissioner Graytop,
Here.
Commissioner Heidemann.
Here. Okay, the first item, additions, deletions, or changes to the agenda. Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
It's been moved and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Citizens to be heard regarding environmental or public works matters. Seeing none, we'll go on to updates. The first update we have is from the Blue Water Convention District presentation. Charlie, and Joe are going to do the presentation. Everyone's going to do it. I'll let you do the introductions then.
Good evening, Commissioners. Once a year, we like to come and talk to you guys, show our appreciation for the support that we get, and kind of go through with what we do with the support you give us annually for the past few years now. So most of you know Charlie Lewis. He's been a director, started with the St. Clair CD, and continued on with the merger to the Sanilac to create the Blue Water CD. Greg Jamalowicz, he's a director formerly of the Sanilac CD as well. And then here we have Marissa Stegman. We just hired her about 3 weeks ago, and she's actually our new Farm Bill technician that is working under the program that you guys help support. So we thought that, and she's from Algonac. We got her from the Algonac State Park, I think you were working at. So we got somebody local.
Way better when I drive in and out of there. Do I look different with a tie on?
So anyways, we emailed a report to you guys, and I just kind of want to briefly touch upon a few of the accomplishments and talk about some of the newer programs that we have since last year. We've continued to grow as a conservation district and do some great things out there to the public, especially with a lot of the rural landowners out there. So to quickly touch upon the Farm Bill technician position, we still continue that partnership with Macomb County. They agreed to share in that expense for the 3 years as well. To kind of break down by county, we put like St. Clair County figures in here, and then the past year, we tried working with 33 new applicants to seek funding through federal dollars of about $250,000. But in the previous years, when there was kind of a lack of nothing with Farm Bill programs in the county, we still continue to manage 46 other contracts that need to be executed, and Marissa will play a big part of that. And that totals about $2.7 million of funded projects. So as I said, the acreage continues to go up, the practices continue to be steady, and we're seeing a lot more foot traffic over the years. That's really developing nice again in our office out there. The funds that we're affecting is about 12,000 acres worth of some sort of practice, whether it be an erosion strip or a containment structure for fertilizer and so forth, but we're affecting about 12,000 acres around the county. Another program that continues to grow is our the MEAP program as well. That's a new addition this year. We were able to work through the state of Michigan. We used to share a MEAP technician between Sanilac and St. Clair counties. Obviously, Sanilac is a very big ag county, but St. Clair has a lot of agriculture as well. Probably close to as many producers to work with, maybe on a smaller scale or the vegetable end of things. So actually, we worked with State Representative Dan Lowers, and we were actually procured a full-time meat technician dedicated for St. Clair County only. So they should also help bring in they should also help bring in Farm Bill dollars as changes are needed on the farm that they point out. They can steer them towards Marissa to put them through the channels of working with federal aid on those.
Are these Farm Bill dollars state dollars?
Farm Bill is federal.
Federal, okay.
USDA, yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, the meat program is state money, and that comes from a tax that's on fertilizers and spray chemicals. So real quick, I did have a page on the district organization. We are now the Blue Water Conservation District. Since October, we've been, our bookkeeping and all that has kind of changed over to the Blue Water Conservation. We have 2 Farm Bill technician grants, one in St. Clair County and one is housed in Sanilac County. We have a Conservation Technical Assistance Initiative grant, and that was another full-time position. That's the state of Michigan pays for that, and so does the federal government. And that was to help actually implement some of the technical end on all this Farm Bill program money coming in between Sanilac and St. Clair County. There needs to be somebody to actually do like the engineering side of things and the drawings and plans and so forth. And this person is working on that. So it's created that position as well. As I had mentioned just a minute ago, we had the 2 MEEP grants. There's one in Sanilac County and now a full-time one in St. Clair County. We secured about 2 years ago a wildlife biologist. And they're supposed to help with work with landowners that really don't have an interest maybe in farming and more into the pheasant hunting, and work with that different clientele that of rural landowners, and putting pollinator habitat out there and warm season grasses for habitat management. New this year, actually in January, we successfully talked the state of Michigan, MDA, into letting us have a produce safety grant. There's new FDA regulations falling upon produce growers for the safety of all of consuming raw vegetables and so forth. And amongst these FDA rules, there's a lot of education that needs to be done out there. And knowing that St. Clair and Macomb County have a lot of produce production going on, we talked the state or MDA into letting us have that grant. And that actually covers from Huron County down to Wayne County. They didn't really have one on the east side of Michigan yet. Most of those were placed southwestern Michigan. But that's something they're housed right here in Wadhams as well. Somebody local as well we hired for that position. And they're really just starting to learn that position. They actually have to do some out-of-state trainings so they understand the FDA, the FDA laws, so they can communicate that to the growers in the area. So we look forward to working with produce growers in that aspect as well now. And then we also have for the Saginaw Bay area this Pay for Performance program, which is we can directly pay for cover crops for people that live in the watershed of the Saginaw Bay. Unfortunately, St. Clair County does not qualify, and those landowners don't qualify for that. But that is a program that we are administering through the Blue Water Conservation District. So actually, from originally when we came here 4 years ago, we started with, I think, 3 employees in Sanilac County. We were kind of sending one down to watch the office down here to try to start something again. Upon bringing Marissa on, we've actually now have employees of 10 employees, 5 to each office. So we've seen tremendous growth in the past 4 years with revenues coming in through grants to keep the conservation district going. I have a page on the USDA, on the Farm Bill practices. we still continue to work with the majority, a streamlined set of, more popular practices, which is the agrochemical containment facilities. Fueling facilities is kind of an issue now. There's laws on the size of fuel that you can have with, secondary containment and so forth. And NRCS has kind of stepped into the rings to help with farms come into compliance with on-farm fuel storage as well. Nutrient management, pest management is still popular. Cover crops it's slow to take off, but it's gaining in popularity every year. So that's something we continue to work with because that does help, reduce sedimentation into the waterways. And we know that there's a lot of that in a lot of waterways in St. Clair County. Along with the produce safety, the High Tunnel Initiative, where it's a greenhouse and you grow in sweet corn or something on the land below it, kind of extends the season. That's kind of popular with people that are trying to begin farming. So we kind of look at, using the produce safety technician in tandem with that program as well to bring in some federal money. And then, of course, we have our wildlife biologist, and he is pushing wildlife habitat management and pollinator habitat. I discussed the meat program a little bit. You'll see a picture there with actually Charlie and his family. He's trying to practice what he's promoting on the board, and he is meat verified and following the laws through the state to stay certified. Real quick, I think the state of Michigan is going to quickly approach the 5,000 meat verifications that was set by Governor Snyder 8 years ago. Currently there's about 4,800, and I think they're projecting that 5,000th verification to be, I think, around March or in the springtime of 2019. And St. Clair County has 80 of those verifications. I've talked about the produce safety and our CTI. We do have forestry assistance available to us. Tuscola County, their conservation district actually houses that forester, but that's a grant program where if there's enough forestry, they'll send them down. It's a free consultation to the landowner as well. If there's forestry related issues, we do pass those on to her, and she takes the time to come out and meet with those people. And then for our own programs, our rental programs are really starting to stay steady. In Sanilac County, we've always had the 15-foot no-till drills, and we could kind of see the tapering off of those to larger equipment in Sanilac County. However, I am noticing a trend there. Our no-till drills are being more used in St. Clair and down even into Macomb County a little bit. So it's kind of revitalized that program for us, and we have the equipment already. So that's a good thing of this partnership, is it's making use of something that I thought maybe would taper off at one point. We still have tree planters available for people that want to, plant a field of trees or do a windbreak. We're trying to do a fair amount of educational programming yet. We do work with St. Clair Farm Bureau and the Sanilac Farm Bureau with Project Red. We've kind of become good partners with Macomb County since they've kind of asked us to do a few things since they've been supporting our other program. We're like, well, hey, can you guys do this and so forth. So we did go down this year and do, they have a Lake St. Clair Water Festival, I think, in Macomb County. And we did send 2 people down to do tree education down there and pass out trees to children and so forth down there as well. And then the last thing I want to talk about really is our tree sales that continues to be popular. I'd like to thank the St. Clair County Parks for letting us use the Goodall's barn out there each year. We have tremendous growth in that every year. We've partnered with Macomb County as well to offer trees down there. It's made our profits go up to help us support these Farm Bill techs because we have to, as a district, commit to it as well. So it's made it a very steady program for us. We know one year we maybe had 300 customers. We're serving well over 1,000 now on top of the amount of walk-ins that we have. So I want to say we were getting like maybe 1 or 2 loads of trees, and we're making 5 or 6 trips to get trees now. So it's definitely growing and very popular. Other than that, I've kind of just wanted to briefly cover that. I know you guys have that in front of you if you want to read through it. I guess the last thing I do want to touch upon, one thing with the Blue Water CD as being one unit, we're going to start going through the phase of putting like a business plan together and a resource assessment. And if the commissioners or have resources or ideas that they think we should put into this plan or focus on, we do primarily focus on, rural issues and for natural resources, but there's other natural resource issues around the county that maybe we're not aware of or not focusing on, and you think we should. We'd love to have that feedback from people to take everything into consideration as we do this. Yep. So, yes, the last thing Charlie wanted me to mention was we did, being that the majority of our board members were from Sanilac County, we did, after a board meeting, go down to Harson's Island and look around there and explore a newer area to them so they could understand what Phragmites is and so forth. So they're trying, the board is really taking an interest into, let's understand the area and build upon what we've started. So that's all I have.
Okay, any questions for
Yes,
Joe?
one question. This is for Charlie. I know somebody else is going to speak. And you already know about this. You covered cover crop, but it's not, is anything going on in St. Clair County with that? I didn't see any in where I'm at, and I've got 6 rural townships. And of course, Rotus used it last year, I believe. But is any going on in St. Clair County?
There's a fair amount going on in the county. I don't use cover crops because we have sugar beets and it doesn't fit in the rotation. But after wheat comes off, there's a fair amount of it that goes on.
Because I know he put it out just quick, another 20 seconds. They put it out there, and there was some turnips in it. It sure helped the deer hunt.
Yes.
Any other questions?
I'm just going to make a quick comment. I actually spent the afternoon with the state director for the USDA, was in town. We put on a forum for all the townships, cities, so on and so forth. A lot of times when you think USDA, everybody assumes it's agriculture only, right? So I went to a meeting in St. Clair 3 or 4 months ago, and you talk about that farm bill. Be surprised at how many things are encompassed in that farm bill, right? I mean, from infrastructure improvements to water and sewer to you name it, right? Carl, you were there today, and I think you would be, Howard, you were there, surprised at how many things that the USDA actually reaches out. It was a great program, a lot of question and answer, what are they able to finance and fund and those types of things. So the communities that were there, I know they were quite surprised because, like I said, in personally, my association's always been agricultural, kind of heavy with them. But that's a component, don't get me wrong, but they do a whole bunch of other stuff. Offer a lot of low interest infrastructure types of things, and I was amazed at how many things that they do get involved in, different things that they do fund. So
Yeah, even in our office, there's the Farm Service Agency across the hall from the Natural Resource Conservation Service. And once again, one deals with more commodities, and the other side, we're dealing with the natural resources and that funding that's within the Farm Bill. And then I think there's a rural housing department like in Carroll that covers the area. So there is many different facets to the Farm Bill.
I just wanted to say one thing, kind of echo what Commissioner Heidemann said about the float down. Another thing about these Farm Bill programs is Joe talked about the $2.7 million or so that gets handed out to landowners and that. But that money doesn't just go into landowners' pockets. It gets spent for local contractors and local builders to actually build these fertilizer containment structures or build the fuel containment units. So this money really has a multiplier effect as it goes through the community.
I'd just like to add,
Go ahead.
Howard, Jeff, and I all attended the same meeting today, and one of the things that people, I don't think, realize is that they have a lot of programs for the small villages and cities that support our agricultural areas. It's very difficult sometimes for them to come up with the money to build municipal water and wastewater treatment plants, and rural development has a substantial amount of funding available, both grants and loans, to support those activities of our smaller municipalities in St. Clair County.
If I could just add, any other commissioners? A couple things I was looking at, and they were talking about renewable energy and the money available for that. They made several comments about that, particularly for individual, let's say, farmers. And I remember many years ago, Jeff and I went out to James Reed's dairy farm out in Grant Township and saw the solar panels that he put on his new dairy barn. And anyway, they were commenting that there's money available for that, for farmers to help, and that would obviously help them pay for their electrical costs out on the farm. But I was also surprised to see that they have, I think if I read it correctly, up to $25 million available for communities. I'm thinking St. Clair County. And we do have a vacant landfill out on Thomas Road. I need to go out and see if that's available. But we might have other properties where, county properties, we're setting up a solar facility to produce electricity and make that available to the community. And again, grants and loans are available, and that might be a possibility. It was really impressive to have Jason Allen in town, director for the state, U.S. Department of Agriculture, to do that presentation. As Commissioner Bohm has indicated, and Commissioner Tomlin, it was a real eye-opener what's available to communities of all sizes and to individual farmers and agricultural producers. Anyway, thank you.
I guess, there's one other thing I forgot to mention. When I talked about our partnership with Macomb County, we are actually, because of the consolidation of the two districts, that's worked out well for efficiencies. We are because Macomb County would really like us to consolidate with them as well, and we do welcome that feedback from our constituents that we currently have to help us decide, is that something we should look forward to doing to help create better efficiencies, better partnerships, a more robust conservation district. So we're currently kind of reviewing that aspect as well, and I wanted to throw that out to you guys. If you ever have any feedback on that, I do welcome that, or the board welcomes that feedback to take into consideration. So
Thank
just
you.
wanted to mention that. Yep, thank you.
Any other updates from commissioners regarding these matters? I have one, just in case you missed it. NACO, the National Association of County Officials, had a neat photo on their posting of 4 smiling St. Clair County commissioners touring the county with Senator Peters and all kinds of civic and community leaders from Marine City all the way up to Port Huron, and stopping in Marysville and St. Clair and looking at all the projects going on in the county. And it was really great to have the senator take off the better part of a whole day and to come up to St. Clair County because this was a short recess session for U.S. senators. So, but anyway, if you get a chance, it's in there, and pretty impressive. We could see everyone's smiling faces, but Carl's.
I'm always in the background.
You were in the background. All I could see was the top of you. Anyway, That's all for that. Any conceptual initiatives from administration?
No.
Any old bid? No old business. We'll go to new business. The Aeronautics Advisory Board reappointment.
Mr. Chairman, I move that this item be forwarded to the full board.
It's been moved and...
Support.
It's been moved and supported. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. The Resolution 1818, supporting Friends of the Fort Gratiot Light application for a charitable raffle license.
I'll move that item be forwarded to the full board.
It's been moved.
Support.
It's been supported by Commissioner Dunn. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. The Mead Hunt contract for rehabilitation of the runway 422 electrical for final action.
Mr. Chairman, I'd move this be approved for final action.
Do we have a second? Support. It's been supported by Commissioner Graytop. Any
Howard,
discussion?
just a quick comment. You probably read about the unfortunate accident that happened, and it was not at the airport. It was at the Ball Diamonds. We had a plane that was trying to make an emergency landing. Correct me if I'm wrong, Carrie. St. Clair was not even their destination. And if you saw that, there was an individual from Ottawa that had got killed overnight that crashed, but it didn't have anything to do with the airport. I know Kathy was not able to attend today because she's dealing with the FAA and everything out at the airport, so I just wanted to mention that.
This is for final action. Could we take roll call?
Commissioner Tamian?
Yes.
Commissioner Bohm?
Yes.
Commissioner Dunn?
Yes.
Commissioner Rushing?
Yes.
Commissioner Graytop?
Yes.
Commissioner Heidemann?
Yes. The MDOT contract for rehabilitation of runway 422 for final action.
So moved.
It's been moved and supported by Commissioner Graytop. Any discussion? Seeing none, could we take roll call on that issue?
Commissioner Tamian?
Yes.
Commissioner Bohm?
Yes.
Commissioner Dunn?
Yes.
Commissioner Rushing?
Yes.
Commissioner Graytop?
Yes.
Commissioner Heidemann?
Yes. The contract approval request for American Rock Products.
Make a motion that we send this on to the full board.
Support.
It's been moved and supported by Commissioner Rushing. Any discussion or questions? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, it's been moved and approved. The contract approval request from Henny Construction regarding the metal roof at
I would make the motion, but I want to make sure that I make this right motion. I wanted to make the motion to move it on to full board, but I would also like to direct administration to work with Mark. Mark's in attendance. There's an opportunity to save, and I think it's an additional $7,000 per the contract if they're able to stay in the
duplex building.
Out there. So I would like to move that on, and then Carrie, does that give you direction, or?
Yeah, we will get with legal counsel and our insurance carrier to see what additional requirements we may need to put on the contract and
Okay.
have that for you at your full board meeting.
I'll support that motion.
It's been moved and supported. Any other discussion?
Yes.
Yes.
On that $7,000, and Mark's here, is that money going to be coming off of the Friends of the Fort Gratiot Lighthouse? $30,000 that they're getting a loan to get their cost down to $23,000, or is that coming off the county cost from the Park and Rec?
In my understanding, Mark can correct me. Well, I'll let him deal with it.
When the Park Commission discussed it, there was 1/3, 2/3, so that savings will be shared proportionally between the Friends and the Park Commission.
Fair enough.
But it comes off of the, well, there's a total of $9,000 total, and it comes off the $98,000.
Right, I understand. Be $7,000 savings
Okay.
from what they proposed to you for the people, the workers to stay at.
Okay,
And the agreement with the Friends is the Parks and Rec Commission would front-load the entire cost, and as they're able, they will pay back their 1/3 share.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Thank you, Mark. The Eastern Aviation Fuel Incorporated Contract Amendment.
Mr. Chairman, I move we forward this to the full board.
Been moved by Commissioner Dunn. Supported by Commissioner Rushing. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Entertain a motion to accept and receive the Smiths Creek Landfill Activities Report.
So moved.
Supported. Been moved and supported. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Any other environmental public works matter? For information only, the Park and Rec financial documents, I would entertain a motion that they be received and filed.
So moved.
It's been moved and it's been supported. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion, opposed, nay. Motion carried. Receive and file packets regarding environmental public works matters.
So moved.
It's been moved and supported by Commissioner Rushing. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
It's been moved and supported. All in favor say aye. We are adjourned.
At this time, I'd like to call order the Ways and Means Committee. Could I have a roll call, please?
Commissioner McConnell, Commissioner Tamian,
Here.
Commissioner Heidemann,
Here.
Commissioner Bohm,
Here.
Commissioner Dunn,
Here.
Commissioner Graytop,
Here.
Commissioner Rushing.
Here. Okay, moving on to number 2. I don't believe we have any additions, deletions, or changes. Can I have a motion to approve the
I
agenda?
would so move.
Support.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passed. Okay, at this time, citizens to be heard. I do have one, and this is in regards to Ways and Means Committee. Mr. Herpel, if you could please come up, and anybody else so chooses, but it's in regards to the retiree health care options.
I'm here in regards to the proposed options 1 or 2. Certainly representing 65-plus retiree, I wish there were no changes coming, but I certainly hope the board this evening will at least go with option 1. The savings is there. They'll get you up over 40 or 50% funded status based on the actuarial assumptions. I point out to you that the savings to the county is out of the pockets of the retirees. Option 1, on average, $1,240 out of their pension checks. Option 2 would be $1,541. Average is all I can give you. We don't know who's going to be sick and who isn't. But certainly, with the fund at 35%, moving it to 50 will do suffice what is required by the state law in Public Act 202. Just in way of averaging, there's 739 retirees now. The average pension check would be $1,692. Option 1 will take about 6% out of a person's check. If that person has a spouse, that's 12% on average. If you go to option 5, it's 7.5%. With a spouse, it's 15% reduction in their spendable money for other things in their life. When I give you $1,692 figure, that's average. The 65 and over group is much less than that. 90% of your proposed savings here is coming out of the 65 and over group. I couldn't compute at the moment what the average 65 over pension check is per month, but it's nowhere near $1,600. I can assure you that. These proposed changes are going to very much impact the retirees' health. They'll go without prescription drugs. They will have to because of their assets won't support this kind of a change. It was about 5 years ago that you took $1 million savings to the county. Savings to the county means out of the pockets of the retirees. I can only hope that at least, because there are other options in front of this board this evening, is that you'll go with option 1, which has a deductible of $500 per person per year. Married spouse, that's maybe $1,000 out of the income. That's the way it is now. Option 2 is $1,000 per person. All the other savings comes out of higher drug prescription costs, 25% more cost to go to see a doctor, 25%, when you have a copay of 20, it goes to 25. I mean, that's not a killer maybe, but it could be to certain people. The prescription drug costs going, all the tiers going up substantially. That's where the savings is going to, is that the county will realize.
Excuse me,
comes from.
Mr. Herpel, your time is up. Thank you.
All right, we'll be moving on, but would that be a reasonable request, Carrie, to get the estimated costs that he mentioned? Because we're going to be looking at this. If the costs are correct or expenses that potentially might hit a retiree between now and whatever we consider in the future.
Well, the difference in costs is in your agenda packet. It shows what the current plan costs are and what the different 5 options, what those costs would be.
Okay.
And the average costs, Mr. Herpel is correct, does depend on usage.
Okay. All right, moving on to updates. Do we have any updates? Seeing none.
One quick one. Some of us got the opportunity to attend the groundbreaking on August 21st for DTE for the new plant, over $1 billion investment in our community. They're going to be retiring a whole bunch of the coal-fired plants, you know, in the next however many years. Obviously excited to get this opportunity, but I'm probably equally more excited because the opportunity to get more investment once you get the first investment, because how they work these things is they stack them. And it looks good for us long-term for the additional investment. If you're a community and you lose your coal-fired power plant, Trenton, River Rouge, 40 to 60% of your budgets in those particular communities. You know, it was obviously a sizable number for us. Knock on wood, we were able to secure that. We were looking at, you know, from all, you know, angles, substantial reductions if that plant, you know, wasn't had. So,
I'd just like to add to our chairman's comments. As we know, plants are going to be closed in St. Clair County, but they're also going to be closed in suburban Detroit. And there's only one new plant currently being proposed, and I'm very pleased that that plant's coming to St. Clair County, and I think Chairman Boehm should be recognized for all the work that he did to help make that come to pass. I mean, as I recall, our electric utilities make up about 12% of our whole tax base. If we're to lose such a significant amount of our tax base, there won't be money for our services, let alone for our retirees, if that's not replaced. And this new gas-fired plant will be a major asset to our county going forward.
I spoke briefly about this, and I know I sound like a broken record, but I'll repeat this again. DTE is $828 million. Greg Hill's in attendance here, right? $828 million in SEV. Consumers Energy is 108. That's DT1. Consumers 2. ITC, which is 3, they're 106. Enbridge is 4, and they're 65. DT represents 11.5% of our entire SEV in St. Clair County. That's how substantial it is. So, I mean, we're 17-18%. If you look at our top 6 or 7 taxpayers, are all our utility companies. So, need to continue to work with them to additional investments. I know, Dave, you had the question the one time about how come the property tax, you know, and you brought that up at one of the meetings, and it's because that other building that looks like all the other buildings on 26 Mile Road went in, and that was another $50 million in SEV, you know, or whatever the number was. So sometimes I don't think people realize that how much these utility companies, you know, pay in taxes. It's massive.
Jeff, any further information or update of potential unloading on the rail or a spur to be built for the construction of the potential infrastructure for that gas plant because of the restrictions doing it on site, which you talked to me about?
No, nothing yet.
Okay.
No.
Mr. Graytop.
I was fortunate enough to be there with Commissioner Bohm, and I have to tell you that we were excited, and everybody in this community was excited, but I have to tell you that the DTE guys, I think, were just as excited as we were. We had the CEO was there, Jerry Anderson. We had president from the gas side, president from the electric side, and Chairman Bohm. The four of them sat up front there, the bigwigs that they were, and Jeff did us proud with a great speech and just laid it out exactly the way it was supposed to be. But the electricity that you could feel in the room that day from the DTE guys, and I'm talking from the top guys that are putting this thing together, have been working on it for a couple of years, was probably as excited. They were as excited as we were to give it to us as we were to get it from them. And I think it's just going to be absolutely awesome. And Jeff was absolutely correct, because there's more on the drawing boards that we don't know about yet. We know some of it, but not all of it. And once you get the big piece in there, that stuff will follow. We'll be that much further ahead.
Okay, Commissioner Heidemann.
I would just like to say, if you've driven by Lapeer, Michigan, and you've seen the DT solar collection farm out there, I don't think anyone should ever assume that we're giving up on renewable energy for St. Clair County. And if the opportunity presents itself, I think wind energy is out. I don't think we're going to have an opportunity, but I certainly think there will be opportunities for solar.
All right. Now we'll move on to conceptual initiatives. We have none. We have no old business. Moving on to new business. 7A, contract approval request for Pivot Point Partners LLC.
Mr. Chairman, I move we send this on to the full board.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passed. Moving on to 7B, manning table changes for the treasurer and assistant deputy treasurer. And first,
Make a motion, we send it to the full board.
Second.
any discussion? If I definitely want to hear from you two, because I got questions. So if you would, one of you please step up.
You're doing it one at a time.
What's it?
You're going to do one at a time, I take it.
I figured since the last group had two people, I should at least bring somebody with me. Just to introduce myself, I'm Molly Crory, the Deputy Treasurer for St. Clair County, and this is our Treasurer, Kelly Roberts-Burnett. To kind of summarize what we're trying to accomplish here, you guys had talked about some of the other properties and taxable values. I know that a lot of you have worked, even with the Marine City project, the Inn on Water Street, and I know in Riley Township we had a title issue. One of the positions that we're talking about is the title analyst position. That work has actually been done in our county since 1981 under the land management. Greg Hill and I actually, before he retired, worked on part of this position. It's been moved around collectively from land management with technology changes. It was moved to equalization, and that wasn't a fit for the work that was being done. It was then transferred to the GIS up in information technology. But between the three departments, we sat down and really talked about this because our legal descriptions are an important part of our tax roll. They help with tax roll setup, obviously with mapping, land plotting, title work, working with subdivisions and development, even landowners who have property splits or questions about how their property is being described. And so between a collaborative effort of those three departments, equalization, treasurer, and information technology, we determined that the title analyst position was more effective if it was defined as its own. We looked at our comparable counties to get some ideas as well of how they were defining that and what their scope for that position was. And we found in the 5 counties, Allegan, Berrien, Eaton, Grand Traverse, and Muskegon, that they have a specific title analyst position that does those functions where they look at the legal descriptions, they work with the local units on property splits. They work with landowners who are having discrepancies, maybe been recorded back in the 90s and further back, finding surveys and doing different things like that to assist with that. So we felt that that position was appropriate to be defined on its own. And because of the work that we do in our office for tax certifications and also for tax reversion, it's very reliant on legal descriptions and defining that property correctly so that it can be taxed appropriately and obviously reverted if necessary, and certified to make sure that people can sell their property. The funding source for that item, it was kind of unique. We were able to work with administration and budgeting to take a part-time position out of the information technology GIS program and transfer that for general funds. So we're not asking for any money for general fund. We're using money, the offset of the difference to make this a full-time position will be coming from our foreclosure fund, which is a fund that's under the authority of the treasurer as the foreclosing governmental unit for tax foreclosures. And it's funded through land sale proceeds. Each year, we report those land sales and what that offset is. And then there's also some statutory fees that help establish that fund balance as well. The second position that we had submitted before the board was the request for a manning table change. This is not increasing any staff in our office. We had an opportunity due to a vacancy, and I'll embarrass the city treasurer a little bit. He was actually a gentleman that worked in our office, and because of his experience through our office was able to apply for and get the position at the city office. So we're very proud of that, and we're very proud that we can continue to work with the city on some of their collection projects and different things that they're doing over there. But because of that vacancy, we felt that it was an appropriate time to look at our structure compared to our comparable counties and make sure that we had a good balance for our workload and our services. One of the interesting things that I found in speaking with the other 12 counties was that there's a lot of variability in what they call things in different job descriptions. But the one commonality that we found is that they do have at least 2 to 3 professional or skilled work positions in their office, and then an equal 2 to 3 balance of clerical staff who's doing more of their daily administrative work and waiting on customers and ringing in payments. So because of what we looked at with the comparable counties, we determined that going through the job description and wage analysis that administration had developed for us in 2017, we didn't want to build any variance in our structure that was there, so we wanted to stick with the structure that we had. Our proposal is that we reassign that vacant position, which is currently in account clerk 3. It's paid out of our foreclosure fund as well, and we're going to reassign that to the more professional, skilled staff of the assistant deputy, which would switch that, as I mentioned, as a manning table change. The vacant position was previously budgeted out of the foreclosure fund. Again, that's through the sale proceeds, and leave that as a specialized department for us. I don't think there was anything else I had to add to that as far as the budget. Again, like I said, I think I already reiterated that this isn't a request for any kind of a general fund funding. We've already have the appropriate funding source for it. It's just simply asking for the board to review those changes for the manning table. I'd like to thank you guys for your time this evening. I know it's really nice, and this is one of the last agenda items, so I'll wrap it up and leave it there if there's any questions.
Well, I'm sure there's going to be questions. I have some.
Probably.
And I found out a lot of information about the foreclosure fund, and I have history here for 7 years, and currently there's a $3.7 million balance in there.
Yes, that's
Currently,
correct.
we're paying 2 positions with that fund balance, and this will up it to a total of 4, correct? 3?
No. It will leave the 2 that are currently paid out of that, and it will add a half. So 2.5 positions
Well,
would
it'll still be a full position. You're going to make that a full-time, and it's a part-time. You're going to move it over, and then that's going to go from, to a $63,000 position. You're going to get $29,000 out of the, roughly closer to $30,000 out of the fund balance to have a full-time position, and that money's going to cover that.
Yes.
The assistant deputy treasurer, other than the $9,000, and I rounded it up, to have an assistant deputy treasurer, but the job's already being done by professionals, isn't it?
We have one assistant deputy currently, but because of some of the work that's associated with us, like I said, there's a lot of complexity in different things that we do for balancing. We balance approximately $60 million in collected taxes each year. So, and as agreements get more involved, we worked with actually Commissioner Bowman on the St. Clair County PACE project. As some of the tax programs and offerings become more complex, we need actually individuals, because the current deputy position is she already has full responsibilities.
And it has to be another assistant deputy treasurer?
It doesn't, I guess it doesn't necessarily have to be that, but it didn't make sense for us to come up with a different title, like a tax supervisor or a staff accountant or a reversion specialist, which is some of the titles that were in the other ones. We wanted to keep with the simplicity that administration had developed for us, because to us, the work just needs to be accomplished. It didn't seem to make sense to try to add more variability and I guess more complexity
Great. So,
to
you know, I
it.
try to look at everything from both sides, and that's our job here, to oversee the dollars that are being spent.
Yes.
And if the job's already being done, that's why I ask these questions. If I don't ask it.
Right.
But if the job's being done and it's $9,000 for the one, that's gonna be out of the fund, foreclosure fund balance, that's where we're gonna get the money from. And then historically, currently, we're spending about $130,000 on the two positions, and that's without the Medicare and Social Security.
Right.
After this is added to that, that's gonna be roughly $180,000 annually.
Yes.
Until something changes, $180,000 out of the foreclosure fund that'll be paying for these positions.
Yes.
So, the title, and that's why we have these meetings and discussion to see if, is it necessary to have another person specifically as an assistant deputy treasurer? Is there any legal ramifications where it has to be an assistant deputy treasurer?
In the other counties, they're all deputized, so actually, in the other counties, a lot of them are specifically referred to as deputies, but as far as a legal, I mean, that's the only statutory requirement, is that they uphold any of the statutory obligations of the treasurer. But from a legal standpoint, I mean, we could probably develop a different, title for them.
And we do have a motion and a second on the first 7B for the assistant deputy treasurer. You went and covered both of them already, which is
Yeah.
fine. And, but we do have a motion and a second. Do we have any other questions?
Question, I talked to Carrie a little bit about this, and Carrie, you can chime in on it, but I'll go to this PACE program, which was, as you guys remember, we passed the PACE, call it whatever, here at the county. Gary Fletcher worked with your office. They were very receptive to it. It's another economic development tool that essentially doesn't put the county in any harm's way, but there was about a $5.5 million loan associated with the St. Clair project, and you guys worked through it, because there is a little bit more work that they have to do to administer these types of things, and I give you credit for stepping up to do that, because they could essentially say, no, forget it, we're not doing it, right? And that would stifle a lot of these things. You're going to see, I know there's another part of the other development down there that's going to be coming before us. And I appreciate you working, understanding the importance of having those tools in the tools box per se to move some of these things along. There again, I know bits and pieces about what you do. I would refer to Carrie on this as far as, recommendation. So.
Any other further questions on 7B, Assistant Deputy Treasurer? All those in favor of forwarding it to the full board?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passed. Okay, we'll move on to 7C, the manning table change for the treasurer, addition of the title analyst position, and you already got a pretty good breakdown on that, but I need a motion first.
I'll make a motion, we send it on to the full
I'll
board.
second it.
All right, discussion.
The analyst
Yes.
name, Lori,
That's the employee that we believe would be the appropriate candidate for that.
going to move into your office or stay?
We have asked her to come work for our office, one, because of the funding source, but also because that gives her a good presence to the general public, because a lot of what her job is actually working with individuals who are struggling with either their legal description or trying to get their property split, or having like assessors come in, and where she's at currently in information technology is obviously a little bit more closed off. So we'd like to have her presence available in the treasurer's office, plus some of the work that she's going to do for us with the foreclosure fund. Our intention is to utilize all of
Does she
that.
still have a connection to IT in some form?
Yes, it is a collaboration between equalization, so she is going to, there's still going to be functions of that she's definitely going to help maintain for them, which is why they've agreed to give us part of their budget, which is unusual in county, but because of that collaboration, they've agreed to do that. And then also, obviously, equalization, because legal descriptions, the integrity of that data is essential to what equalization does here in this county. So she'll be a very integral part of all of that, but her primary supervisory will be under the treasurer's authority.
Any other question? I just got kind of a comment that there'll be $180,000 if this gets approved at the full board. That'll annually be taken out of this, and I don't know if it's a good precedent to get in a position of having a foreclosure fund. So let's say in next year or the following year, because it'd be a consideration, well, you need 2 more positions that we're going to use foreclosure monies for, maybe 4 positions. And historically, if we go down this road, I don't know if it's the best best way to go on it. So
Well,
just
the-
consideration.
Yeah, I guess to elaborate on that, and Kelly and I spoke about that, one of the reasons those two employees ended up in that was because during the budget crisis, those positions were going to be cut, which would have left us with two people to manage $60 million in collected funds, not to mention all the delinquent funds, so.
Understand, and I've
Yeah.
always pressed that the county employees have done a fantastic job. When we had the 2008 crash, everybody stepped up, not just the Treasury Department.
Yes.
Everybody did an excellent job. Carrie is our administrator, and I want to give thanks to all the employees, so.
Yeah.
Because everybody did.
I just want to emphasize, when you single out particular funds, there are multiple positions in this county that are paid out of different funding sources that are eligible for those reimbursements. So it's not an illegal activity
No,
that's going,
not-
I'm just want to clarify that. There's probably 30 different positions I could start naming off that are paid for this fund, that fund, so on and so forth. So I just want clarification.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passed. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to move on to the retiree healthcare options, and I guess
I'd like to do just a little talking before we get into making any motions or any of that kind of stuff, if that's okay with the board, just through a little history. I got some things I just want to share with you, and then I'll let Carrie. It's kind of, I'm going to be, all over the board a little bit with this. Go to the healthcare fund history first, okay? Retiree healthcare fund history. If you look back from '07, where we were at, and I know I sound like a broken record, but I became board chair back in 2010. When we sat through that first actuarial report, they said you have 5 to 7 years or you're done, right? So if you look at those funding ratios back then, 14.8%. And be quite honest, I've been on the board the last 14 years, and previous boards never had the stomach, probably pretty safe to say, Howard, to tackle that issue and address the issue. So the proverbial kick the can down the road was getting kicked, right? So when we came into the 010 part of it, we said we got to do something, right? So we formed a work group. I know a lot of people are in attendance. We spent probably a year, 13 meetings, I want to say, 2-hour meetings, facilitated those things. And we made, we made some changes back then to the healthcare. I think we've been 7 years now with the retiree healthcare, give or take. So we were able to move that needle, a little bit. And hence you see where we're at today. There's some compliance issues that we're going to be faced with from the state. I think, going through the 2 different workshops, nobody wants to not do anything and not address those issues. There was there was actually 5 different options presented. We just focused on option 1 and option 5 at the time because the numbers, in between deductibles, we didn't have to run all the case scenarios on all of them. So when you look at that 35%, we are better than most, okay? And you heard that not from me, but we had our Blue Cross and Blue Shield representative that talked about that, which, truthfully, we're still not out of the woods by any stretch. To sit here and tell you that we're in good shape just because we're better than most, that doesn't sit real well with me. We need to make continued improvements in this, and I understand that with this comes decisions that are going to affect the retirees. And I have been to 6 or 7 retiree luncheons. I know I'm not the most popular guy in the room when I'm delivering this information, but I feel at least good when I walk out of there because I'm giving you what I feel is the truth, and I think where the state of it and is moving forward. Whether you want to hear it or not, at least I've showed up to tell that. I don't know if that's happened previously, so I do feel I guess at peace with that. Can you flip over to the funding piece of it? Because here's another part of it that always I think gets lost, that I hear all the time. Well, the stock market's back. It's, you should be back and your monies and, so on and so forth. If you go back to pre-crash, let's just 07, I know that's past history, right? These actuarial reports tend to use a 7.5% rate of return. This is, I had them run these particular numbers that, assuming the world didn't fall apart, I'll take the blame for a lot of stuff. I won't take the blame for the world falling apart, right? But if you look at where we were at in '07 with an assumed 7.5% return, okay? You know, if nothing happened, there'd be $325 million in that fund. That's actually put money's in, money's coming out to pay the liabilities, so on and so forth. So when you go to the actual numbers, then when you look in '08, you know, we lost 35.8% of our numbers. There's our rate of returns and all the above, right? So that's the number where we sit today at 260, 260 million. It's a difference of $65 million that if hence the world wouldn't have fell apart, we would have had that money to be able to dump into the healthcare, okay? Crystal ball, so be it, we didn't. So, you know, the conversations have come up in front of us. We haven't put money in. I've heard that one before. I hear all these, you know, call them urban legends, if you may. And Carrie, as you well know, we've put money in. We continue to put more money in and stuff. So, you know, so I just kind of want to give you that historical snapshot just because the stock market is back. That's where we're at today. We're, you know, $65 million difference. That's how catastrophic that hit was. So I want to go back now. I give administration a lot of credit. They ran some different things for an option 1, an option 3, options 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 is what we looked at. Option 1, if we took that, to me doing nothing's not an option, let's go with that. But if we took option 1 as an option, that increased our, can you go over some of those numbers, Carrie? I'm going to defer to you what that does for our actuarial piece of it. Does any of the commissioners have any questions on the stuff that I just shared with you there? Carrie?
So Blue Cross Blue Shield did provide us with 5 different potential plan design change options, with option 1 being the least amount of change and option 5 being the most amount of change. So what we did is we had the actuaries basically do a what if the board adopted option 1 and what if they adopted option 5, knowing that options 2 through 4 would fall somewhere in between of those results. So when we had them run option 1, it does significantly decrease our unfunded liability, almost not quite by 50%, but it does take our funding ratio up from 35% up to 50.2%. And then if the board were go to the option 5, it also, it more than cuts the unfunded liability in half, and it takes the funding level up to 54.3%.
And just so, I'm sorry, and that is all money's blended. You still have compliant, I mean, the county has their portions, community mental health has their portions, and the road
Yep.
commission, that's a blended
That's the plan in
number.
total.
Yeah.
Other than general discussion right now, and then we'll have more discussion, but could I have a motion? Do we want the motion?
Let her finish up and just
Howard,
kind
do you
of
have
general.
something?
Just going to comment. We haven't made any changes to retiree health care for, the last 5 years?
At least I think the last change was maybe,
Big savings, you're right there. Well, when I say big, from 15 to 20.
yeah, let me see. I feel like it was in 10.
Yeah.
12,
I
12,
guess-
I think it was
Yeah,
implemented in 12. Howard.
2012.
I guess my point is, we probably wouldn't even be talking about a change right now if it hadn't been for the state coming in and mandating that we get the funding liability up to 40% or higher. And I guess I'm thinking, there's nothing that says that they can't change their mind again next year and ask for 50%, But there are so many communities that are struggling with the legacy costs, whether it be pension or benefit fund.
I just want to point out, too, at the time when we did make the change to the retiree health care, we went from a PPO 2 to a PPO 4, which they
Right.
currently have today, which they don't pay any money towards their insurance. Our active employees, we went to PPO 8, and they pay 20% of their premium. So I just
But that too
want
was
to.
mandated by the state.
I just want to be, clear on that too.
So,
Well, with Public Act 202, I believe that it is, there is actions that we are going to have to take. Take care of the medical cost. I do have a question in regards to the Road Commission. You look at mental health, they're doing great. The county's doing fairly well. But the Road Commission, how do we address that to get them more in line? Because they're well underfunded in comparison.
Well, the Road Commission as well has been making different changes and additional contributions, so they have been working towards it. But the Board of Commissioners has the sole discretion and authority to change the retiree health care benefits.
If they ran it to zero, if they went, they would they would essentially pay out of pocket, which a lot of communities do, which isn't a good option, because that just puts, a bunch of those things underwater too.
Yes, Mr. Graytop.
The, one of the figures that I looked at that kind of impressed me, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jeff, when we went back 6 years ago, or whenever it was when we made these changes, our life expectancy on some of this stuff was like 6 years. We were looking at the
5 to
end of
7.
things. And by making some of the changes we've made and making some of these changes, assuming we do today, we're going to push this out to 18 and 20 years. So those people retiring, if you can assume if you're 60 and you want to live to 80, you can pretty much be guaranteed, unless the world falls apart again, and that would be your fault, Jeff, that you're guaranteed your pension. I mean, your health care, it's there. By pushing this out every year that we've pushed it out a little bit further, you're saying that that's going to be there. And I think that's an important piece, and that provides a little bit of security, I think.
One of the other things, though, I want to make sure too, now the state of Michigan, they haven't implemented this yet, so we're using a 7.5% rate of return on pension. The treasurer, correct me if I'm wrong, they're recommending that you use a 7%. Is that correct, Carrie?
That was, the Department of Treasury is supposed to publish actuarial assumptions each year. They did publish a draft, and the draft does say 7%.
If that number becomes 7%, that increases our liability additional 5 to 7%, okay? That's, I think, a pretty good chance that that's going to happen. So I don't want to sugarcoat this, that, there's not more to come, but at least we're getting out in front of it. So.
Any other discussions?
Just a question. I'm glad that Commissioner Bone brought that up tomorrow, because the Director of Treasury will be meeting with the MAC Financial Committee in Lansing tomorrow. I'll be there. And maybe this is
ask
sort
him
of
that
question
question.
I need to ask. Are they going to be changing that too? Which would change our numbers again.
Right. The draft the Treasury put out indicated that they will be looking at and evaluating them each year, and it's not just your interest rate of return. They look at healthcare inflation, and basically they will set all of our actuarial assumptions that we will be required to use for state reporting purposes.
Any more questions on the information piece of it all or anything?
I believe the motion that will need to be made if we're going to forward this to the full board, and from my understanding is recommendation would be that we, for a 3-year period, that we start with option 1 for the first year. That would start in 2019, 2020, option 3, and then 2021 going to option 5. I am correct under that understanding, Carrie? That would be the motion I would need to forward to the full board.
What year, 2000 what, for option 5?
In 2021.
Thank you.
Is that your recommendation, Carrie?
It would be my recommendation to go to option 1 next year, and then to do a phase-in to get up to option 5.
Do you have a specific period of time?
I would propose that we go to option 1 next year, option 3 the following year, and then option 5 in 2021. That gradually increases it, and it gets the board to that higher funding level.
That highest number we would get to would be 50%?
Based on today's current trends, each year when the valuation's done, and once the state sets their assumptions, there will be some changes to these funding levels once we have to use the state's assumptions. But we don't know the impact of that yet until they're finalized and published.
More to come.
Then if there are some drastic changes, things happen, if we had to say that we weren't going to do it, whatever. But what I don't want to do is go through all the stuff again, and I'll go with your recommendation, Carrie. I'll be brutally honest. If you would have asked me before, I would have said go the other way, go to an option 5, but I don't have a problem going with the one, and the reason, to continue to monitor it, but I would be opposed to going through a whole big rigmarole, doing a Blue Cross thing, and, if it comes up, yes, we will have to approve that, I'm assuming, for next year as a board, if we want to make that additional change, so I would make that motion.
Support.
Okay, any further discussion? I do have a little bit. Go ahead, Howard.
I would just go, I agree with Commissioner Bohm to keep bringing this issue up year after year and subjecting our retirees to uncertainty. It probably, I feel it's probably better to give them the certainty of knowing these are the steps we're taking, and they can see where we're going to end up.
Of course, this will be giving direction for our administrator to go forward with this, and then you can have your funding and what she needs to do her job. What this also does is Blue Cross Blue Shield this has to be reviewed every year, and the funding involved may drastically change from year to year. So we will be looking at as long as it's consistent, it'll be pretty much take care of it. But if there's drastic changes, of course, our administrator will advise us to.
This is one piece of it, then we have the eligibility piece and stuff, which I would like to get the work groups back together and, spend the next X amount of time talking, about the eligibility and some of those other possibilities, and then we can run some different scenarios to look at the liability piece of it.
Yeah, just a great job.
I just want to emphasize that one of the considerations that we took into account was when we held the public meetings, several people addressed the board and asked that if we do make some changes, we try to implement them a little bit slower rather than hitting them right off the bat. And as Commissioner Bohm said, he was kind of leaning, thinking it was going to go right to option 5. And when we looked at it and listened to what administration said, the idea of easing into it with a 135 seemed like it made an awful lot of sense. And so that's the reason I think that we have settled where we have.
Any other discussion? Yes, Howard.
Just, I don't think we can ever really relax on this issue until we're up to 100% funded. 50% is still a long way from it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passed. Okay, this time, any other Ways and Means Matters? Seeing none. Information only. Notice of public hearing for the City of Port Huron. I need a motion to receive and file.
So moved.
Support.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passed. Need a motion to receive and file.
So moved.
Support.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passed. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? We do stand adjourned.